You think you are helping. But what if you are not? What if every time you save them, you destroy yourself a little more? What if your kindness is not noble? What if it is weakness? What if your loyalty is not love, but fear? Fear of being called selfish, fear of being hated, fear of letting people suffer the consequences they earned. So you stay, you give, you forgive, you rescue, you explain, you defend them to others, you defend them to yourself, and slowly, your life begins to rot from the inside. Look at your face lately, tired, heavy, irritated, drained. That is not compassion. That is the cost of carrying people who were never meant to be carried. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something brutal about human nature, a truth most people are too soft to admit. Not everyone wants to be saved. Some people want a witness, some want a servant, some want a sponsor, some want a shield, and some want a victim. This is the lesson, the cold lesson, the one civilized people pretend not to understand. If you keep saving the wrong people, you will become poor in every way that matters. Poor in energy, poor in time, poor in peace, poor in dignity, poor in spirit. And the worst part, they will still blame you in the end. Tonight, we expose the 6 types of people you should never try to save. Never. Not because you are cruel, because you finally learned the price. Watch until the end. Because the last type is the one that ruins the strongest people. The savior trap. Before the 6 types, you need to understand the trap. Because the trap is not them, not at first. The trap is you. Why do you do it? Why do you rush into fires you did not start? Why do you bleed for people who would not bandage your wound? Why do you keep trying to fix what clearly does not want to be fixed? The answer is ugly. Because being needed makes you feel valuable. Because saving people makes you feel powerful. Because deep down, maybe you believe your worth is measured by how much pain you can absorb. That is how the trap works. You confuse suffering with love, exhaustion with loyalty, self-erasure with goodness. You were taught that a good person stays, a good person understands, a good person sacrifices, a good person gives one more chance, and one more, and one more, and one more, until there is nothing left of them. Machiavelli would call this strategic suicide, because life is not an endless supply. Your attention is finite, your emotional energy is finite, your time is finite, your future is finite. Every ounce of life you pour into the wrong person is stolen from the right future. Imagine a ship. Limited food, limited space, limited strength. Now imagine letting anyone board. The unstable, the selfish, the disloyal, the foolish, the resentful, the destructive. Does the ship become compassionate? No, it sinks, and everyone on it dies, including the innocent, including you. That is why wisdom is selective. Not everyone belongs on your ship, not everyone belongs in your house, not everyone belongs in your mind. Some people must be left where they are. Because if you drag them forward, they will drag you down. Now let's name them, one by one. And while I speak, watch the faces that appear in your mind. Type 1. The architect of chaos. This person always has a disaster. Always. Every week a new emergency. Every month a new collapse. Every year the same story with different costumes. They lost their job. Their relationship exploded. Their car broke down. Their rent is overdue. Their friend betrayed them. Their boss was toxic. Their family is unfair. Their luck is terrible. At first, you believe them. Of course you do, because occasionally, life does hit hard. But then you notice something. The storm follows them everywhere. Not because the world is cursed, because they create weather. That is the difference. The architect of chaos does not learn. They repeat. They ignore warnings. Miss deadlines. Choose obvious red flags. Start avoidable fights. Waste good opportunities. Blame everyone else. and then collapse dramatically in public. And what do? You step in. You lend money. You write references. You make calls. You calm them down. You solve things that were never yours to solve. And for a moment, it feels like progress. Then it happens again. Because you did not fix the problem. You delayed the consequence. That is why saving the architect of chaos is so dangerous. You become their buffer, the soft landing beneath their bad decisions. You become the reason they do not have to grow, and people do not change. When the pain never fully reaches them, remember that. Growth needs friction. Wisdom needs consequence. Discipline needs discomfort. If you keep removing all three, you do not save them, you freeze them. This type is seductive because they are dramatic. Their pain is loud. Their need is urgent. Their stories are emotional, but urgency is not the same as sincerity. Some people are not drowning, they are thrashing, and if you jump in too close, they will climb on your head to breathe. Then you both go under. Ask yourself this: after every rescue, did their life improve? Or did the chaos simply change shape? That answer tells you everything. Stop being impressed by desperation. Desperation is not transformation. If a person keeps building the same ruin, let them live in it long enough to understand architecture. That is not cruelty. That is law. Type 2, the bottomless pit. This person is never full, never satisfied, never stable, never truly grateful. At the beginning, they look harmless, even lovable. They thank you deeply, praise your kindness, tell you that you are different, tell you no one has ever helped them like this before. That is the opening. Then the pattern begins. The second favor comes faster than the first. The third comes with less shame. The fourth comes with expectation. The fifth comes with irritation if you hesitate. Now you are no longer generous. You are required. This is the bottomless pit. The person who consumes help and resents the helper. Why? Because dependence humiliates them, and instead of becoming stronger, they convert that humiliation into hidden anger. So they take what you offer, while quietly despising the fact that they need it. This is why some of the people you help the most end up speaking the worst about you. You exposed their weakness. You became a mirror, and weak people often hate mirrors. Have you noticed this? The more you give some people, the less they respect you. That is not your imagination. That is human nature without character. The bottomless pit does not experience generosity as a gift. They experience it as proof that they can take more. And the moment you stop, everything changes. The smile hardens, the warmth disappears, the guilt begins. I thought you cared. I guess I know where I stand now. Must be nice to leave people struggling. Listen carefully. That reaction is the revelation. Because the word no is a spotlight. It exposes what politeness was hiding. A healthy person can hear no. A bottomless person cannot, because no forces them to face a reality. They have been outsourcing to you. If you want to test a person's character, do not look at how they behave when you give. Look at how they behave when you stop. That is who they are. Not the tears, not the thank yous, not the performance, the reaction to boundaries. That is the truth. Never try to fill a person whose emptiness is protected by entitlement. You will empty yourself first. Type 3, the smiling saboteur. Now we enter darker territory, because this person does not drain you through need. They drain you through envy, and envy is one of the most silent forms of hatred. The smiling saboteur is often close to you, very close. A friend, a co-worker, a sibling, a partner, a peer who watched you grow. They do not attack openly. Open enemies are easy. You can see them coming. The smiling saboteur is different. They hug you, support you, celebrate you, but not fully, never fully. There is always a little poison in the sentence. You get the promotion. They say that's amazing, but the pressure will probably destroy your peace. You meet someone great. They say, nice, just don't ruin it like last time. You launch something meaningful. They say, good luck, most things like that fail, but maybe you'll get lucky. Do you hear it? The smile, the poison, the perfect disguise. That is why it is dangerous. They speak in the language of care, while planting the psychology of doubt. Because your success injures them. Your courage exposes their fear. Your discipline exposes their laziness. Your evolution exposes their stagnation. And people who cannot rise with you often try to pull you back down quietly. If you tell them your plans, they fog your clarity. If you share your joy, they cool the room. If you trust them deeply, they gather material. Not to help you, to manage you. Never show your full hand. To a person disturbed by your growth, never. Machiavelli understood courts, and courts still exist. They are just called workplaces now, friend groups, families, social circles. And in every court there are people who clap only because they cannot stop you, not because they love you. If you try to save the smiling saboteur, if you try to include them, uplift them, reassure them, you make a fatal mistake. You assume envy can be healed by generosity. Often it gets worse. Because the more you rise, the more unbearable you become to them. So what do? You become private, calm, polite, unreadable. You stop broadcasting your plans to people who have not earned access. You stop seeking emotional safety from those threatened by your power. And watch how much smoother your life becomes when the wrong people know less. Not everyone deserves your next move. Some people only deserve the results. Type 4, the professional victim. This one is lethal because they do not arrive with arrogance. They arrive with pain, and pain manipulates decent people. The professional victim always has a wound, always has a reason, always has a trauma, always has a condition, always has a context that explains why they cannot be expected to rise. Now listen carefully, this matters. There are real victims in this world, real suffering, real loss, real abuse, real trauma. This is not about them. This is about the person who turns pain into permanent leverage, the person who builds an identity from helplessness, the person who uses suffering not as something to heal, but as something to wield. And when it does, you must be careful. The professional victim does not want recovery as much as they want exemption. Exemption from responsibility, exemption from effort, exemption from standards, exemption from accountability. They want special treatment forever. And if you are empathetic, you are their ideal target. Because they know your weakness, your guilt. They know that if they can make you feel cruel, they can control you. So every boundary becomes abandonment. Every truth becomes insensitivity. Every expectation becomes oppression. You offer solutions, they reject them. You offer support, they twist it. You offer honesty, they call it violence. Why? Because healing would end the role, and the role gives them too much power. Power over people's emotions, power over attention, power over standards, power over the moral frame. They are not just surviving their pain, they are curating it, farming it, protecting it, because without it, they would have to meet life as an equal. And that terrifies them. Be honest. Have you ever tried to save someone who seemed to get worse every time you offered help? That was not bad luck. That was identity defense. You cannot rescue a person whose weakness has become their throne. And the moment you stop carrying them, watch how quickly the helpless lamb becomes a wolf. They accuse, they smear, they rewrite history. They tell people you abandoned them in their darkest hour. Of course they do. They need a villain. And if you refuse to play savior, you are cast as monster. Accept it. Better to be called cruel by a manipulator than to be consumed by one. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's endless collapse. Type 5. The arrogant fool. This one is exhausting, because they cannot be taught, not because they are stupid, because they are proud, and pride makes people allergic to truth. The arrogant fool thinks confidence is wisdom. They mistake stubbornness for strength, noise for intelligence, defensiveness for dignity. They are always certain while failing, certain while repeating mistakes, certain while walking directly toward disaster. You try to warn them, you show them the pattern, you show them the cliff, you show them the numbers, the evidence, the reality. And what do? Argue, debate, deflect, mock. They do mental acrobatics. To avoid one unbearable sentence, "I was wrong," that is the arrogant fool. And they are dangerous, because they consume immense amounts of your energy. You think, if I just explain it better, no. If I just say it softer, no. If I just use the right example, no. Because the problem is not comprehension, it is ego. They do not want truth, they want protection from shame. And if truth threatens shame, truth becomes the enemy, which means you become the enemy. So the person trying to help them is suddenly accused of arrogance, control, criticism, disrespect. You become the villain. For describing reality, that is when you must stop. Reality does not need your help. Reality is patient. Reality will teach them. And reality is harsher than you. You are not responsible for educating the proudly blind. You are not required to dull your mind on stone. Save your wisdom for the teachable, for the humble, for the curious, for the person who can still say, "I don't know." That person can be helped. The arrogant fool? Leave them to the wall. They will meet it soon enough. Type 6. The scorpion. And now the last one, the most painful one, the one that breaks loyal people, the one that traps loving people, the one that steals years, the scorpion, the repeat betrayer, the history repeater. This is the person who hurts you, apologizes beautifully, promises change, then does it again, and again, and again. A liar, a cheat, a user, a manipulator, a backstabber, a destroyer in human form. But because they cry, because they know your heart, because there was once something real between you, you keep opening the door. That is how the scorpion wins, not by force, by memory, or who you hoped they were. That hope is your chain. You say, "They're not all bad, maybe." But poison does not need to be all poison to kill you. The scorpion does not need to betray you every day, only often enough to normalize your pain and weaken your standards. That is the strategy of repeated harm, not always conscious, but real. Harm, apology, hope, reset. Harm, apology, hope, reset. That cycle does something terrifying. It trains you. It trains you to endure what should have ended everything. It trains you to explain away the unacceptable. It trains you to negotiate with self-respect. And once that happens, they stop fearing consequences, because they know, no matter what they do, your heart will reopen the gate. And once a person learns that, they do not become safer, they become bolder. This is where good people die slowly, not physically, internally. They lose confidence, instinct, standards, dignity. They start asking for the bare minimum, like it is a miracle. No, the scorpion must be cut off, not managed, not reduced, not slowly faded out, cut off. Because some patterns do not need more analysis, they need amputation. A repeated betrayal is not confusion, it is character. A repeated lie is not stress, it is strategy. A repeated wound is not an accident, it is permission meeting opportunity. And if you keep forgiving without consequence, you become co-author of your own suffering. That is the hardest truth in this entire video. You teach people how safely they can disrespect you. Remember that. Now step back. Look at the 6, the architect of chaos, the bottomless pit. The smiling saboteur, the professional victim, the arrogant fool, the scorpion, different faces, same destination. They cost you your life, not all at once, in pieces. A little peace here, a little money there, a little confidence, a little sleep, a little self-respect, until one day you look around and realize you built your entire existence around managing other people's damage. That is the question no rescuer wants to hear. Who saves you? Who protects your peace? Who restores your strength? Who guards your future? While you are busy bleeding for everyone else? Usually, no one. Because the rescuer is expected to endure, to understand, to forgive, to remain available. That is why you must change roles. You must stop being the savior and become the sovereign. A savior jumps into every storm. A sovereign builds walls, gates, standards. A savior burns himself to keep others warm. A sovereign protects the fire, so it does not go out. And that is wisdom, not coldness, wisdom. The world will call it selfish. Let it. Weak people call boundaries cruelty, because your limits expose their dependency. Parasites call distance betrayal, because access was their survival. Manipulators call clarity abuse, because confusion was their weapon. Let them speak. Their outrage is not your guilt. There is one more truth, a hard one. Maybe the reason you keep trying to save broken people is because part of you is still broken too. Maybe you are not just helping them. Maybe you are trying to rescue a younger version of yourself. The part that felt unseen. The part that felt abandoned. The part that thought, if I can just love hard enough, maybe pain will finally turn into love. That is why this lesson hurts. Because when you stop rescuing the wrong people, you are not just losing them. You are losing a fantasy. The fantasy that one day, your suffering will be rewarded. It will not. Not automatically. Pain does not become purpose, just because you tolerated it. Sometimes pain is just pain, until you walk away from what keeps creating it. That is where your real life begins. When you stop trying to save everyone, you get your energy back. Your mind clears, your sleep returns, your money stays, your body softens, your instincts sharpen, and suddenly peace is possible again. Not because the world became kinder, because you became harder to access. That is power. Quiet power. The kind that does not need to shout. The kind that says no once and means it. The kind that does not explain itself to those committed to misunderstanding. The kind that lets people drown in the consequences they created without jumping in to die beside them. That is not evil. That is maturity. That is discernment. That is the end of self-betrayal. So remember this. You are not responsible for fixing every wounded soul that crosses your path. You are responsible for protecting the vessel that carries your own. And if someone can only survive by draining your peace, your time, your hope, your life, then losing access to you is the lesson they were always meant to learn. Some people must be loved from afar. Some must be denied completely. Some must be left to consequence. Some must never return. And once you understand that, you stop living like a hostage to your own kindness. You become dangerous in the right way. Calm, clear, untouched, a lighthouse, not a lifeboat. You do not chase every drowning person. You stand where the light is strongest. Those who truly want saving will swim toward it. The rest were never your responsibility. And if this message hit something in you, good. Because some truths are not meant to comfort you. They are meant to wake you up. And waking up always feels violent to the part of you that was addicted to self-sacrifice. But once you wake up, you cannot unsee it. The users, the guilt, the manipulation, the patterns, the cost. Now you know. Now choose. Choose peace over performance, clarity over guilt, distance over dysfunction, standards over pity, self-respect over false loyalty. Because once you stop trying to save the unsavable, you may finally save the one person who was always worth saving. You.